Okay. I'll probably call this video "Who is Cathead Reynolds?" Um, it's basically who I am is I'm a performance artist and I'm a witch. Uh, let's see. Why does somebody say who they are? A biography or a magic journal exists for other humans to learn from. Uh, is my life's one that someone can learn from? I don't know, only you can find that out. It's a pretty bold claim for any human to say, really. There have been some greats. There's been Gurdjieff and Crowley, and there's been great artists, George Machinis, and I don't know. But I guess that's not the point. The point isn't about greatness. The point is about experience. We learn from other people's experiences, how they get through things, and what they do. And the question in my mind today from DJ Elliott is about fate and changing fate. And this is kind of paradoxical because isn't our true will, our holy guardian angels in there, and it wants something great for us, a beautiful life. But then, of course, there's, I don't know, if you're a Gnostic, you could call it the fall, but there's something about the world, there's something that we're thrown into, right? Forfeit. So if we're thrown into the world, and the world isn't, maybe there's this other concept of effluvium, which I've never heard anyone else mention again, but it's a concept that works for me. Somebody said it once to me that you make a contract with God when you're born, and he will try to set up certain events in your life that will address things you want to learn. I think this has become much more so with spirit. We have a little bit more control of how much we bring into the next life than we used to. But people can be kind of cleaned out like a blank slate. Later I'll mention I did a prayer fast, and I think most people's fear about their death and facing deity is kind of silly. You're probably going to just end up in a blissful state, but you won't really progress very much as a soul if you don't pay attention. And then you'll be reborn into some more chaos, whatever. But as far as after death, most people don't have anything to fear. There is a loving source to all this, and it'll suck you right back up in and sort of blank you out, and give you your bliss. But what about here on Earth? My life has had some struggles, I would say, and I would say that they've pushed me towards studying spiritual matters. I had got into art school very young. When I was 18, I got a scholarship for 1 year to the San Francisco Art Institute. Art sort of saved me. I didn't fit in school. I didn't fit in the world, it felt like to me. And then I found in art I could express anything. I could do anything, and it was okay. It was a safe place. What's on the paper is paper. And so I really, but then, I learned about performance art, and I wanted to do performance art like Chris Burden or something really interesting. So I had heard somebody stole the Mona Lisa once and had it under his bed for like 7 years. And then they found it, and they said, well, why'd you do it? And he said, I fell in love. So I thought, oh, that's beautiful. And then that was mulling over in my head, and I went to the La Jolla Museum of Contemporary Art, and they had this. It was a beeswax block. It was beautiful, by Valeska Soares, a surrealist artist, sculptor from South America, Brazil, I believe. But it was a beeswax block. It was probably about 2 to 2.5 feet long and about a foot to, I don't know, 10 inches wide and about an inch and a half tall, like just a block of beeswax, right? And then it had these two mouths sculpted on it, you know, so they were like a hole, and then you could see the lips coming out of this sort of pretty flat surface, a little lumpy, you know, but, and then there was oil perfume in both the mouths, and so they're about, you know, I don't know, whatever apart, and, but out the corner of one mouth comes this puddle of oil perfume, and it goes into the other one. It was so elegant and beautiful. So I saw it, and it was on a Friday, Venus, but it was on a Friday, and I thought to myself, I'm gonna kiss it. So I came back the next Friday, and I did. I waited till there were no guards in that room. I just kept looking at all the different art, and finally, when there were no guards, I went and I kissed it. And because it was oil perfume, it had some alcohol in it, but like not, you know, like, I mean, like rubbing alcohol kind of. So it like burned my mouth a little bit. And also I had the fear of getting caught and this sort of intimate thing with this piece of art with an inanimate object. So the combination of all those was very thrilling and amazing. And I left. But I think somehow I felt, well, did the piece happen? Did it happen just for me, or is this an art piece, you know? And I told my friend about it, and I told him, I think I'm going to go back. Told Coulter Jacobson. I said, I think I'm going to go back and I'm going to steal it. And he was like, you know, I don't know what he said. But so I did it. I went in there and I did the same thing. I waited till nobody was around, and then I picked it up and I started running, and there was a door with like a fire exit thing, but I thought if I kicked that open, I was going to drop it because it was a lot heavier than I thought. It kind of stuck to the thing when I pulled it up, so I already was a little felt off balance with it. So I ran and I kind of went around this corner and I ran outside, and I could feel when I got outside that it was too late. I know this sounds crazy, like eyes on the back of your head, you know, but I could see that somebody was in the air and they were about to hit me, and I couldn't run any faster or slower. I kept trying running, but no. And they hit me and it exploded underneath me. For years I had it in a Ziploc bag with I had the sweater, because the sweater had the oil perfume on it and had a couple little pieces of the beeswax left. But anyway, so then I would say within about 5 minutes, I saw 10 cop cars. They treated this like it was the apocalypse, you know, like it was a terrorist act. So I was 18 years old. So they slammed me against the wall and all that stuff, and then they put me in the car and they interrogated me, and they said, did you do it for drug money? You know, and I wanted to hold to the piece, not say, well, I'm a performance artist. So I said, I was in love. And oh man, I hadn't been in a cop car yet. When I said I was in love, they threw me into a cop car, shut the door, and didn't talk to me for like 30 minutes. But so I spent the night in jail, and I ended up writing a letter saying I was sorry, and I had to work 65 hours a week that summer because I got a scholarship to go to the art school because they thought it was so cool I did the thing, but I had to pay, I think somehow it was $6,000. Yeah. So I had to pay $6,000 restitution. I found out what the fuck $6,000 is real fast. It's a lot of money. But anyway, so then I went off to art school. You know, somewhere in there I found out, well, I didn't find out, but later on I found out that I have schizophrenia. So that affected some of the things that I dealt with. And I ended up, after going through and getting a great art education and knowing what books to read, my psychosis increased. And, you know, luckily I was sort of harbored from the rough feelings of it because I sort of joined the underground and, like, you know, lived on the street and stuff. And I thought partially I was doing it for political reasons, but I think some of it was not something I was choosing for myself. I was having a life of poverty because I was suffering from an untreated ailment. Anyway, point being, I came back from San Francisco. I had grown up in San Diego. I was in San Diego, and the torment of some time, I was staying with my parents, and I went through their spiritual books. And my mom had seen krishnamurti in Ojai, California in, I don't know, the 70s or whatever. So she had the books, and I read Flight of the Eagle. And I read it like every day, and then I met a witch, and she lent me a book called Wild Cherries, which I think was postmodern fiction or something like that. But it was a very disturbing story because all the characters were always dying and transitioning. You know, no character stayed in it very long. Something happened, or everything was not stable in it. And so the combination of reading that and krishnamurti one night, my mind had to keep getting more and more focused. And I went to sleep, and I had the most profound dream that I've ever had. I dreamt that I was walking down the street, and to the right of me were three women with like ribbons, like silk, transparent, semi-opaque, but very colorful shawl type things, and they were doing some kind of ribbon dance. And I looked at them, and I realized they were the Maya, and they were distracting me, so I kept going. And I saw a house, and so I went into the house, and the house was very crowded. And I saw that these were my thoughts, my crowded thoughts. So I walked through the party to get to the other side. And on the other side, there were 3 steps, and then there was like a chest, and then there was a square hole. So it meant if you wanted to go, the only way really to get through this hole was to crawl up the steps over this chest. And it was the only way out of this place. So I did it, and as I was crawling over the chest part of it, I looked down and I could see my own corpse in it. So I had to overcome my own death. And I faced it. I was like, okay, so I'm gonna die someday. So I kept walking and crawling. And I crawled in, I went through the hole, and then it opened up to a bigger room. And there were 3 people sitting in a row on the right side, and there were 2 people on the left side. But the last seat on the left was still open, and there were people sitting in the lotus position, or regular, whatever. So I sat there and I looked at who was facing me, because it made 3 pairs of people facing each other in meditation, and the person I was facing was Krishnamurti. And I said, "You're Krishnamurti." And he said, "No, I'm not. I'm an actor pretending to be Krishnamurti." And with that sentence, my mind completely expanded. I realized we're just playing a role. Our life is just a role, but that we are more than this corporeal form. And when I realized that, he disappeared, everything disappeared, the room disappeared, and I was an eagle, and I was flying. And I was flying, and I was really high up in the sky, and I looked down, and eventually I saw this Pueblo city that was shaped like the Arc de Triomphe if it was as big as the Twin Towers. And on the inside curves, there were two villages up on this giant structure. And this was some structure that existed in the ancient past in the Americas. And for some reason, I thought to myself, should I carve a hole in the top of the flat part of this arch, so that the rain could hit these two villages? And then I thought, no. And I kept flying, but I could picture the hole because I was dreaming, and if you think something, you see it. So I could picture it, and I could also see it not being there. And I kept flying, and I was pondering this question. And as I pondered this question, I didn't realize I was starting to land. And I came down on the ground. This would all make a lot more sense to me later. And I came down on the ground, and I was walking in an abandoned city now. So no racing thoughts, but just the bare, empty city. And I looked down, and I could see like I was looking through a video camera. And I realized that life is like a movie. It's like a projection, and if everybody could be in tune with this, I wanted to spread this with my understanding, that how I was seeing. I could help other people understand that life is like a movie. Live the life of your movie. And I looked down, and I saw a pigeon. And then my ego came in. And it said, "Weren't you just an eagle?" And I felt embarrassed that if I'm whatever I'm looking at, I'm only a pigeon right now. And I looked over, and there was down an alley in this abandoned city. There was 3 styrofoam containers on a telephone pole, the biggest one being about 3 feet wide, and each of them a foot tall, a foot deep, like these cylinders, styrofoam cylinders inside each other, spinning, like the way the Mayan calendar works. I hadn't seen a Mayan calendar yet, but anyway, at the time it represented to me, and I still see this, but I saw that it was looking at my own soul, and that it had 3 parts spinning within itself. Anyway, strange they were represented in styrofoam, but I think that had to do with the pigeon and this lower state of consciousness my dream self was slowly falling into. I was still enlightened, but it was only half there. Anyway, so I woke up, and that day I was working at the Lake San Marcos Country Club, and I was serving a party for a CODA meeting, and they had Lakota shaman was helping the CODA meeting, and he had brought a buffalo skull, and there was a circle and all this stuff. But I didn't see that yet. I saw him sitting at the front table, and I told him my dream. And he said something about, I'll trade you a blanket for eagle feathers. And I said, okay. And he gave me his phone number, and he started taking me to sweat lodges. On our first trip to a sweat lodge, he asked me, he talked to me about that everything goes clockwise, and that I needed to know that. Everything in the lodge goes clockwise, and that's in tune with the sun. And I said, well, what if they went counterclockwise? And he said, I don't know. You'd have to ask a Heyoka about that. I'm not Heyoka. And then he suggested I get a book called by John Fire Lame Deer. He ends up talking about thunder beings in there and about the counterclockwise paths and the 4 thunder beings and all that. Anyway, so then what are we at? 20 minutes here? Okay, so introduction, I guess the first video is Krishnamurti and the Krishnamurti dream, and then I guess in the next one maybe I'll cover some Heyoka stuff. Okay, all right. Over and out for now. This is Cathead Reynolds with a big beam of sunlight coming to you. Peace and love, and continue your path, whatever it is. Thank you.